Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for watching this video. The reason I decided to shoot this is because I'm kind of watching, like so many of you, the videos that have recently been put on YouTube and have been shown on mass media of cops, particularly in the NYPD, getting water dumped on them by bystanders while the cops are just trying to do their job. And I think what strikes me the most about that and those incidents is that if you look at the face of the people who are doing it, there's almost this sheer amusement. Like they desire to purposefully ridicule and put to shame the men and women who are sworn to protect them. And there's almost this paradox that's taking place right now where the people who literally put on the uniform every day, willing to sacrifice it all, are now the villains. And I think that for the majority of Americans, that's not the case. I think that the majority of Americans believe that cops are genuinely trying to do the right thing and protect society. But there is a small, loud minority of people who are in some ways effective in their approach to try to make cops out to be the bad guy and to cause this rift or this division. I think some of it is the media. I think the media loves to create a divide. Conflict sells. So the idea that they can draw a line in the sand and say, if you believe this, you're on this side. If you believe that, you're on that side. Pick a side and then let's throw stones at each other. And me being a former police officer in New York City, I know what it is to go to work every day, to put on that uniform with the purpose of supporting my family, right? First and foremost, it's a job. So I would go to work and my thought was, okay, I need to pay the bills and take care of my family. But a close second was the idea that my job was meaningful, that I can go out and feel as though I was doing something good for society, that I was protecting those in the community that I worked in. And it felt satisfying when I would go to work and when we would put bad people behind bars, or we would protect the innocents, or we would be there in people in the citizens or the residents of the community that I worked in. We would be there in their worst moments and hopefully somehow be able to comfort them. Those are the things that I look forward to going to work every day. And the vast majority of cops, the 99% of cops that I worked with, they all felt the same way. This idea that somehow cops are going to work with this feeling of us against them is a false narrative. It really is. I mean, and they've done studies that show that less than 1% of police officers are actually criminal or corrupt. So it just doesn't happen. It is a false narrative. Cops go to work every day, like I said, to pay the bills and to try to make their community just a little bit better. They care about the people in the communities that they work in. They wouldn't do it if they didn't care. And this idea of that there's somehow some institutional racism, there has yet to be, in my opinion, any fact-based evidence to support that. And I'm not even going to talk about that so much in this video. I'm not even going to talk about race and policing and that sort of thing. Really, I just want to address the fact that I don't understand how the community has a perception of cops nowadays that is negative and almost sees them again as the villains or as the enemy. And why should this matter to you, right? So the common person who's sitting at home and decides to check out this video, and maybe you're working or you're going to school, and you don't even really think about these issues, right? So you're like, all right, Keith, why is this concern me? Well, the reason it concerns you is, I'll give you an example. There was a quote on my locker when I was a police officer, and I think it's attributed to George Orwell, and it says, people sleep in their beds peaceably in their beds at night because rough men are ready to do violence on their behalf. And I say it again. I mean, I'm summarizing and I'm paraphrasing, but people sleep peaceably in their beds at night only because rough men are willing to do violence on their behalf. And that's just the reality of what these men and women in blue do on a daily basis. The fact that you can tuck in your kids, kiss them goodnight, that you can sleep peaceably in your home, not really even considering the evil that exists outside of your door, because those men and women are going out there to protect people like you and me from that evil. And being a police officer, I understand the turmoil, the face-to-face evil that you're confronted with on a daily basis. Whether it's people who intentionally harm innocents, right, children, or domestic abuse that goes way too far, or emotionally disturbed individuals who because of some psychiatric issue hurt themselves or hurt others, or when you see a family who's injured or killed in a car accident or in a fire. These are the things that cops see on a day-to-day basis that are seared, they're imprinted on their brain, and they have to live with that. But they do it because, again, they're doing a job and they believe that they are somehow being a positive influence on a community and helping their community in some way. And these are the things that you and I are sheltered from. And sometimes the shelter or the safety can almost bring about this feeling of entitlement and somehow this idea, particularly for some people, that we don't need the police or that they're overrated, if you will. And I do believe that there has to be an outcry of the majority of Americans. You know, when these videos come out, when people are dumping water on police officers, like what happened in New York City, and while they're just trying to do their job and you see them laughing, this should bring out a passion in the average individual, because an attack on those people who represent society, this is the patch that I wore when I was in the NYPD. I don't know if you can see it, but it says Police Department, City of New York. So when you attacked the uniform, when you attacked me, you weren't attacking me as an individual, but you were attacking the society, the city in this case, that I represented. So anytime people do that, it really is an attack on us as a community and as a society. So there definitely needs to be an uproar. The media, they're going to keep putting this out because, as I said, it causes, they thrive on division, right? This is where their bread and butter is. And you and I need to take it upon ourselves to do the due diligence and study, because when we see these incidents, right, that they try to show us and shove down our throats and cause division and say, look at what this cop did. This is awful, right? And hey, listen, you and I both know, if you're an educated person, if you're just a normal, kind-hearted individual that loves your community, loves your family, and is just trying to do the right thing, you don't want to see a person who's corrupt, I don't care if they're a cop or they're not a cop, a person who's criminal get away with it. And I think we could all agree on that. But when you see police officers who are genuinely trying to do the right thing, and they're, being vilified, you watch these videos and they try to cause you to pick a side and say, hey, you should be like us, and point fingers at that cop because they did the wrong thing. First of all, most people don't understand what it means to make a split-second decision in those situations. I'll give you an example. When I was a police officer, I was with my partner. We were responding to a robbery with a gun, and the perpetrator ran right in front of our car. We both got out, chased the perpetrator. He turned a corner, and we lost him in like a dark alley. And we walked. It was midnight. It was like 3 a.m. We walked through the alleyway, looking behind, different crevices and garbage cans with our flashlights out and our guns drawn. Why? Because it was a robbery with a gun. So, of course, we didn't want to allow him to have the jump on us. So as we're walking, the one thought that you would think that I would have in my mind at that moment was, God, please make sure I get home to my family, right? Because there are moments like that when you think that. But surprisingly so, the thought that I had in my mind at that very moment was, God, please don't let this kid, this perpetrator, jump. I say kid, he was probably in his 20s, jump out of some corner, and in my reaction, I shoot him and he doesn't have a firearm and it's somehow unjustified. But just in that split second, I make the decision and I kill him. So I was saying, God, please make sure he doesn't jump out. I hope that if that's the case, he just gets away. Or if he does jump out and I do shoot him, please let him have a gun. That was my thought, because I was so worried that I was going to be, if something like that happened, that I would be placed on the court of public opinion, and people would point fingers and Monday morning quarterback my decision and somehow say that, oh, I was a bad person. I'm a bad person or not a good cop because I killed somebody who was unarmed. See, unless you're in that situation, you really don't understand. And I'm not saying that we can't question these things. What I'm saying is that we do our due diligence, we study the situation, and hey, when you see these videos, talk to a cop. I can't tell you how many times people have come up to me and say, hey, what do you think, Keith, what do you think about this video? I know you used to be a cop. Did the cop do something wrong? Or, what would you have done in that situation? And if a cop did something wrong, I'll be the first to say, yeah, oh man, that cop shouldn't have done that. But more often than not, I watch these videos and I say, no, that's actually police procedure, what that cop is doing right there. Or that's proper tactics, because I'm able to perceive something. I'm able to judge something at a different level because I was trained as a police officer. So not only studying a situation, hearing both sides of the story, waiting till the facts come out, because that's another thing we like to do, right? We hear a story, and if it fits our narrative, we run with it, particularly the media. And sometimes we're all guilty of it. Sometimes, like sheep, we follow along, even without all the facts. And then we find ourselves in a place where we're making assumptions about something that's actually not true. So not only doing your due diligence, waiting for all the facts to come out, but also asking questions, right? We all need to learn something. We're all ignorant in some area. So the fact that in so many areas as a society, we pick sides when we really don't know all the facts. We really don't know everything that's going on, just because it's, I don't know, is it tribalism? Is it just so that we can write on social media, our opinions and somehow hope that we get likes and views? Whatever it is, we need to stop, and we need to be able to take a step back and to look at every situation as an individual situation, not overgeneralizing, because we love to do that as well, particularly when we're calling cops racist or criminal or bad. That's a great overgeneralization of police officers and what they do every day. So this is the only way that we're going to be able to, we have to take personal responsibility and be able to look for ourselves to see what the truth is in the matter. The other thing is, listen, there's that the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. Right now, there are too many kids, that are being raised in an environment where they're not learning to respect authority. All right. Whether it's because of a breakdown in the family. Last study I read, 75% of African-American kids are growing up without dads. Around 50% of Hispanic kids are growing up without a dad. Those are the things, that kind of breakdown in the family does contribute to when you don't have a father who teaches you, hey, this is what you see authority and authority figure that you're supposed to respect them. That definitely contributes to it. But even so, I've seen it, just with my own eyes, where even it's a 2-parent household and a kid gets away with murder, and kids are growing up nowadays where there's no respect for their parents, there's no respect for teachers, there's no respect for their neighbors, because again, the village is supposed to raise a child, but nobody wants the village to raise a child. They want the village to mind their own business. And the kid doesn't respect their teacher, and now they're going out into society and not respecting, again, the people who are the last line of defense between a civil society, a good society, a society based on law and order, and complete chaos. So that has to shift. Again, personal responsibility. Being able to look at oneself and not point a finger and say, it's the society's fault, or it's some institutional racism, or some institutional sexism, or whatever it is that we throw out there, so we don't have to take responsibility for our actions. We need to stop for a moment and think what I as an individual can do better to make society a little bit better of a place to live. There's a scripture in the Bible. I believe scripture. God speaks to us through scripture. Whether you believe it or not, I do. And I'm going to read this passage because I think that it kind of pertains to what we're talking about. And it's found in Romans chapter 13. It was written by the Apostle Paul. And it goes like this. It says, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong, do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right and he will commend you. See, this is what happens when the police officers I know, because I would, when I was enforcing the law, the people who didn't like me were the people who were breaking the law. Those in the community that I protected, they love me. So again, this perception that somehow there's this division and we're harming the community or the community doesn't like us, it's false. Because in my own experience and in the experience of every single cop I talk to, The people who obey the law, who go to work every day, who go to school, who are just trying to make a living or just trying to raise their kids in the right way, they love the police and they want the police to protect them. It's the criminals who fear us, and it's the criminals who can't stand us, and we have to be able to draw that line and understand that they will never accept the police. They will never accept the authority. So the scripture says, then do what is right and he will commend you, he being the authority. For he is God's servant. Okay, the police officer, he or she is God's servant to do you good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword for nothing. He is God's servant, an agent of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also because of your conscience. We need to be able to get back to that. And the good people, whoever's watching this video, if you believe anything that I said, or you completely are grateful for the sacrifice that cops are willing to make every day. When I would leave my house, whether conscious or subconsciously, if I had an argument with my wife, and I think both of us knew it, if I was walking out that door, you better believe that we made sure to say that we loved each other. Because again, whether consciously or subconsciously, there was this feeling that I may not walk through that door again when I put on that uniform. That's the sacrifice that cops are willing to make. Scripture says, Jesus actually said this, greater love has no one than this, than a man be willing to lay down his life for his friend. Cops go to work every day willing to lay down their life for a stranger. So there is no greater love than that. There should be no greater appreciation for anybody. And I'm not just talking about cops. I'm talking about all first responders who put their lives on the line every single day. And they deserve our respect, our gratitude, and our support. So listen, I really obviously passionate about this subject. And I just hope people would start to rise up to not give these knuckleheads that do stuff like that the time of day. If you see a cop being, ridiculed or being harmed in any way, step up. Don't be the one sitting there in the corner laughing and finding amusement out of it. Step up, call 911, jump in if you have to. Hey, I'll tell you what, I've had times where I was, wrestling with a perp and, trying to take them in, and they were resisting arrest. And I've had people in the community that have actually helped me, and they stepped up because we're doing this together, right? We're all on the same team. And the moment we are divided, this house cannot stand. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm actually thinking about shooting more videos like that. If you are interested, there's so many subjects out there that I think that we've kind of drawn a line in the sand. We've picked sides and said, this is the way it is, and nobody's going to change my mind. And that is a scary thing for our country. So I do want to have these discussions. I'm going to post this on YouTube. If you want to comment, if you have different ideas or a different opinion, please feel free to share what you think, and I'll respond. I do want to have this discussion. I want to have this dialogue because I think it's important to society. And we'll realize, I think, in the midst of it, that we do have more in common than we have differences. So, comment, just, watch the name calling. Because to me, if you don't know how to have a debate or a discussion without name calling, then you really don't know what you're talking about. And that goes for talking heads. That goes for politicians. That goes for everybody. Let's have an honest, good, wholehearted conversation with respect. But thank you so much again for watching this. I appreciate it. And I look forward to doing something like this again. All right. Take care. God bless.